So hi, it's Momma G again. I thought I would do a little tutorial episode about, well, not about my fridge, of course, but this is where I keep my sourdough. Now, I don't know how many of you use sourdough on a regular basis. It's basically wild yeast. And the great thing about it is as long as it smells good, tastes good, and digests good, it's good. So, a little about what I do. I'm gonna kind of walk you through it here. So, here's me. This is what I keep it in. Now, this sourdough, if I may share, is, it actually came from England about 230 years ago. I got it from King Arthur. It's a company that has some natural goodness. I got it when I was in Hawaii. I had it sent to me, shipped over the waters, and it came to me in Kauai. This was back in 2010. So quite a long time ago. I've been making sourdough bread pretty consistently for the last 11 years now, believe it or not. It's 2020. Okay, so 10 years. But the key to all of it is you gotta take care of it. You gotta grow it. Believe it or not, from Kauai, I shipped this stuff in my suitcase. This is how important it was to me. I still haven't ever named it. I think people sometimes do that, but I think it's kind of weird. It's really sustaining my family. I ended up with somewhat of a gluten intolerance, tolerance to sugar and all that stuff too. But sourdough is something that's broken down naturally. The lactobacillus breaks down the glutens, and it ferments on your counter for 3 days. Of course, it's kind of like the European way, right? This is why less than 1% of Europeans have gluten issues, because they literally let their bread ferment. They let the bacteria break down the glutens naturally before it gets digested into their bodies, so their bodies can digest it. Our bodies aren't meant to digest glutens like that, and that's why we in America have a lot of issues. I've been studying naturopathic medicine and nutrition for many years. This is why I'm passionate about this stuff. So, bread, it's life, right? So this is a little bit of me trying to let you know how to do it. Of course, this is my Hawaii apothecary jar. I put it in my fridge in between times. What you really want to do to start off this process, I mean, if you want to make a sourdough starter, you can. That's the kind of stuff that you want to do probably, from scratch. But I'll probably do another episode of that later. This really is about how to keep this sourdough active and bake with it. So what I do is I just pour about half of it out of my apothecary jar and try to get it in there. They say don't use metal, so I use glass, or I use a, what do you call it? The bowls. Why do I lose the name of it? I don't know. So, but what I do is I split it up. So this is kind of the start. It just came out of the refrigerator. It needs to get some life back into it. It needs to liven back up. So I'm gonna go get some flour. I buy flour in bulk, and then I put it in these big pickle jars. believe it or not, it's like the best way to stretch your dollar and make it count. So what I'll do is I'll usually get about half a cup to a cup of warm water, not hot because you don't want it to kill your yeast, but these guys gotta liven up. So I just get it like a cup, and I pour half a cup in to my apothecary jar and half into the starter. And then I take and I mix it in, just kind of get it soupy a little bit. Kind of liven it up a little bit. And then I'll take a cup of all-purpose flour and I'll put it in. And what this does is it starts the feeding process, and it starts opening up those sugars in there, so these little lactobacillus and the yeast can start growing. Now it'll probably be kind of a gummy looking, like this. It's kind of gummy looking, and of course it looks a little, you know, tinted because that alcohol that is there that you stirred down from the fridge is basically burn off. It's when they're hungry, they let off these little juices. I don't know. They're basically the burn off of them being hungry. So yeah, you gotta feed your starter at least once a week. I try to make bread at least once a week. Sometimes I go 2. Depends on what's going on in the Gottney household. But this really is helpful because sourdough, you can make anything out of sourdough. You can make, I make pizza, I make rolls, I make bread, I make cinnamon rolls. I put it in what they call a sponge. This is what a sponge is. And I put it in pancakes, or my husband does. He's the pancake maker of the house. But, you know, basically what I'm going to be doing is letting this sit on the counter and bubble up and, you know, liven up. It's going to do this. I'm going to feed it every evening and every morning is pretty much when I feed it. So twice a day. And what that does is it feeds it and it grows it. It gives it life. I'm going to take a scoop out whenever I do feed it. And that, of course, is the, you know, the part that you would probably throw in your pancakes or your, you know, cookie dough or something. Or you just rinse it down the sink. Some people have a hard time letting go. I don't necessarily. But once I've stirred that in, what I'm going to do... Now, Grandma always had tea towels. So do I. Tea towels. One jar, once this starts bubbling, the jar that came out of the fridge is going to go back in the fridge. The one that is left on the counter, so we'll give that probably till this evening, and then it'll go back in the fridge for the next batch. And then this one's, I'm just going to cover it and let it sit on the counter. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, today is Wednesday, so I should be able to cook or bake something by Friday. And of course, I'm going to bring you guys along so you can see how I do the sourdough. But, you know, really healthy stuff for you. You want to do this on a regular basis because a lot of that stuff that you get in the store, it's got dough enhancers, it's got other additives, and really I get to control what I put in the bread for my family. My family just comes and shows up at my house. I think they smell my bread cooking, honestly. And they don't even live very close. But You know, it's just crazy how much is in the foods nowadays, especially here in America and other countries. They still do it the old-fashioned way. There's a lot of families that do too, and they know what's good for them. I do too, and that's why I've been making sourdough bread for 10 years now. My family really tries to eat this because it's what's healthy and good for them, and their body can actually digest it. It's not going to make them crazy like some of the other stuff that is in our food. But I'd like to share this journey with you, and if you have any questions, let me know, because sourdough is the thing that I do. You know, this process is pretty simple, and I've shared my sourdough sponge with other people. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever did Amish friendship bread. It's basically the same concept. That's what they used to do. They'd have so much starter that they would share their stuff with their neighbors. But yeah, this is going to be fun. A lot of people ask me about my recipes and my sourdough, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But my process is really just doing it regularly and letting it ferment on my counter and grow, and then I make some really killer bread. It's really good. And we'll cover that later. So stay tuned and follow me, and you'll see more. And feel free to ask any questions. I don't know it all, but I know quite a bit, and I do it from experience. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. I might even do a little ditty on some of my apple cider process, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, we'll talk to you later, and happy baking.